Lucas's angry words hit me like a slap. "How dare the maid skimp on cooking?" he yelled, his voice full of anger. The word maid made my heart sink. It had been 2 years since Lucas and I got married, and I started wondering if he'd seen me as just a maid all this time. Tears blurred my vision. It wasn't the yelling that got to me, it was the frustration and sadness that brought tears to my eyes. "You think crying will get you off the hook?" Lucas's sharp voice followed, and then something was thrown at me. Even through my teary eyes, I knew it was dangerous. Instinctively, I crouched down. Something flew over my head and crashed against the wall with a loud sound. Cautiously, I looked up to see what it was. A beer bottle. What if it had hit me? A deep fear set in, and I realized I couldn't take it anymore. I needed more than just to leave. I needed retribution. He had to understand the pain and humiliation he'd put me through. As I stood up, resolved, I heard footsteps behind me. "My name is Lily Brown, a 29-year-old housewife. It's been 2 years since I married Lucas, but we haven't been blessed with children yet. Instead, about 6 months ago, we started living with my father-in-law, Henry. Last March, his wife passed away, leaving him alone, and we couldn't leave Dad by himself. After discussing it, we invited him to stay with us. We're in an apartment now, but we plan to buy a new house next spring. Lucas's income is decent, and we're living comfortably. I have to appear happy, otherwise Lucas wouldn't be satisfied. You really are frail, aren't you?" Lucas said, more in disbelief than concern, as I managed to sit up in bed. "I'm sorry," I mumbled. "It's okay. I'll take out the trash for you," he replied, leaving the room. Lucas helps with housework sometimes, like today, when I'm not feeling well. He'll step in, but he just doesn't get the essence of household chores. He carelessly puts out the wrong kind of trash on burnable trash day and doesn't even think about sorting it. When he brings in the laundry, he just throws it in the room without folding it. He only does the visible chores, which is why in our neighborhood, Lucas is known as the ideal husband. You're lucky, Iris. With Lucas's good income, you don't have to work, and he even helps with the chores, my neighbors would say. I couldn't tell them the truth. I just smiled strangely. It's true that Lucas's income isn't low, and thanks to that, I don't have to work. But he only gives me a portion of his salary. "Manage this month's expenses with this," he said, and at first, I was puzzled. It was just barely enough. I thought about getting a job, but Lucas dismissed the idea with annoyance. "We might run short this month," I argued. "I'll keep up with the chores." But Lucas never agreed. At first, I thought he was concerned about my health. But then I realized it wasn't the case. Once he said, "If you work, it'll look like my income is low. You enjoy ruining my reputation, don't you?" I hung my head and realized Lucas didn't want me to work to maintain his reputation. He even told the neighbors. "She's frail, so I have to help her out. She can't manage the household chores alone, let alone work." The neighbors praised Lucas, while they thought less of me. "Your husband's struggling. You should bear with it a bit more, right?" they'd say whenever I showed a hint of weakness. Lucas wasn't lying. He was just exaggerating the truth, so I couldn't argue back. I could only force a bitter, self-deprecating smile. And yet, Lucas couldn't manage the household chores perfectly. He mixed up the trash again. Late at night, I would sneak out to the trash area to check. I could see the misplaced trash without even opening the bags. I'd take it back home and put out the correct trash on the right day, sighing in relief. The next day, Lucas would wake up with a smug look on his face. "See? Because I'm helping with the chores, you have it easy, right?" "Yeah, thanks," I would say, forcing a smile. I couldn't tell him the truth. It would hurt his pride. As Lucas happily ate breakfast, I brought up his father. "About your father, What about him? Lucas replied. His legs are getting weaker, and he's having trouble with the stairs in our apartment. Maybe it's better if he goes to a facility. Lucas's smile faded. He's my dad. What do you think of him? I think he's a respectable man who worked until retirement, holding important positions. That's why I want him to enjoy his retirement. So you want to dump him in a facility? Speak your mind. You just don't want to take care of him, right? That's not. I was about to deny it when my father-in-law walked in, leaning on his cane. I quickly stood up to help him. Good morning, I greeted him. Good morning, he replied. I quickly stood up to help him. Good morning, I greeted him. Good morning, he replied. Dad, Lucas began proudly, she wants to put you in a facility because she doesn't want to take care of you. That's not what I meant, I protested. My father-in-law sighed. A facility, huh? Might be a good idea at my age. Stairs and steps are tough. Dad, don't say that. Lucas pleaded. He'd been using his care for his father as a way to appeal to the neighbors, taking on visible tasks like hospital visits and walks. But at home he barely paid attention to him. Even now, Lucas remained seated next to me. We'll buy a house and live together, he said. We'll make sure it's barrier-free. Lucas laughed like a dutiful son, but his father's expression was anything but pleased. He saw through the act, knowing Lucas's concern was just for show. My father-in-law sighed after Lucas left for work, saying, Lucas always liked to play the part of the top student, huh? He uses friends as stepping stones to stand out. I never thought he'd still be like that at this age. I forced a smile, more to convince myself than to address my father-in-law. He's trying to help us in his own way. I said, I'm sorry, Iris, my father-in-law murmured, looking down. Right after we got married, Lucas suggested we save up for a new house. I agree without much thought, but now I regret it. Please, we really need more money for this month. Can I have a bit more for the expenses? I asked. Lucas responded coldly. It's money we need for our dream, not a penny can go to waste. I tried to explain that food and utilities were necessary, but Lucas declared, that's because you're being too lenient. Think harder. There must be something you can cut back on. I was at a loss. I was already wearing old clothes and only getting haircuts twice a year. Even with groceries, I bought discounted items and used beans to bulk up meals. There was no luxury in our life except maybe for Lucas's nightly beer and snacks. What about Lucas's drinks and snacks? I suggested. That's me rewarding myself for working hard, he replied. I nodded, realizing I never had a moment to reward myself. I'd love a simple dessert like pudding, but there's no money for such luxuries in the budget Lucas gives me. Managing the finances is your job. Do your best. Yeah, I'll try, I responded, even though I thought I was already doing my best. I couldn't say that out loud. He wouldn't listen. Lucas was saving for our dream of a new house, and I was determined to support that dream, no matter the cost. I'm going to take a bath. Can you get my change of clothes ready? Lucas asked. Got it, I replied, taking his jacket from him. As I did, a realization struck me. Lucas's jacket smelled of perfume. He doesn't wear perfume, so why? Iris, what's wrong? He asked. Nothing, I replied with a forced smile, trying to cover up my inner turmoil. I was near panic. Why would Lucas's jacket have the scent of perfume on it? Had someone been close to him? A woman. I tried to convince myself it was a coincidence. Maybe someone wearing perfume had been near him on a crowded train. But the more I thought about it, the more my suspicions grew. Could Lucas be cheating? Despite Lucas working hard every day, doubting him felt terrible. But I couldn't shake the feeling. I thought about confiding in my father-in-law, but decided against it. He already lamented Lucas's true nature. I didn't want to trouble him further. This was something I had to bear alone. A few days later, in desperation, I contacted a private investigator. I hoped to prove Lucas's innocence, but I requested an infidelity investigation anyway. The results came quickly. I hesitated to open the envelope, struggling with my decision. Finally, I pulled out the documents. "No way," I whispered, speechless. There were photos of Lucas looking intimate with a young woman. Photos capturing their intimate moments were enclosed. Lucas had been visiting the construction site of our new house with his mistress. What was he thinking? As I read further into the investigation results, I found out that most of the money Lucas claimed he was saving was actually being spent on his mistress. He made me live like this, yet he was with her. A wave of emotions surged from the pit of my stomach, a mix of sadness and anger. I couldn't bear it anymore. I decided that when Lucas came home, I'd confront him with the truth. But it felt pointless. What would confronting him achieve? Lucas would surely be furious. He'd probably never admit to anything. What would I do then? I didn't want to break up. Despite his betrayal, I still couldn't bring myself to hate Lucas. I loved him, which was why I married him. But what about him? Does he still love me? I didn't know, but I didn't want to break up. I wanted to pretend I hadn't seen anything and continue living with Lucas in our new house, with my father-in-law, and maybe eventually have children. I dreamed of such a life, but my thoughts crumbled with my tears. This can't be true. This can't be happening. I felt nauseous as I cried. I locked myself in the bathroom, but the nausea wouldn't go away. After taking some medicine, I barely made it to my bed. It was already evening when I checked the clock. I had to prepare dinner, but I couldn't move. Lucas would be home soon. What should I do? In desperation, I made a decision. "I'm sorry, I'm feeling sick today. I couldn't cook, so can you make do with this?" I said as Lucas came home, observing his reaction. The dinner table was laid with frozen, ready-made dishes, mostly things I had stocked up for my lunches, like pasta and hamburgers. They must have been Lucas's favorites, but he glared at me furiously. "Don't mess with me," Lucas said in a low, grumbling voice. "What do you mean by a maid skipping cooking?" he shouted. His loud, angry voice made me cower. Tears streamed from my eyes, not out of fear but frustration. Maid. So that's how Lucas saw me, not as his wife but just as a working maid. "You think crying will get you off the hook?" he shouted sharply, grabbing something and throwing it. I instinctively crouched down as I heard the crash of breaking glass. Turning around, I saw a beer bottle had hit the wall and shattered, its contents slowly staining the floor. I suddenly thought, I've had enough. I can't stay with Lucas anymore. But just leaving wasn't enough. Lucas had called me a maid, so I had the right to ask for compensation in the name of retribution. Just as I was about to stand up, I heard footsteps behind me. "What's all this noise?" It was my father-in-law. "It's none of your business, Dad," Lucas said dismissively. But my father-in-law saw the shattered beer bottle and seemed to understand everything. His face turned as fierce as his son's, his usual gentleness gone. "You raised your hand against your own wife. What are you doing?" "I had no choice," Lucas said weakly, hanging his head like a scolded child. He cast his eyes around, turning to me as if expecting help, but I had no obligation to offer any. "Enough," my father-in-law said, crossing his arms and watching Lucas. Lucas seemed to realize that throwing the beer bottle was a mistake. If it had hit me, he could have been arrested on the spot. "Iris, thank you for everything, but I can't let my son treat you this way anymore. Could you please leave him?" "Dad, I was planning to do that," I replied, showing my respect with a salute. "Thank you for everything until now, father-in-law." "Hey, Iris, your maid is quitting today," I said formally, then stepped into the hallway. I began to pack my belongings from our shared room. "Goodbye, goodbye," I repeated to myself. With each repetition, the last of my love and attachment to Lucas faded. This was right. I had come to see Lucas as less than a stranger, leaving behind numerous humiliations he had caused me. "What will I do now?" I muttered. Just then, Lucas entered the room flustered. Hey Iris, you're not seriously leaving, are you? I am. I'll file for divorce. Don't take what my father said seriously. You're not feeling well, right? Just rest. So I would be failing as a maid, right? My voice was cold. You're upset about the maid comment. Upset or not, I said, continuing to pack. That's your true feeling. Well, yeah, but a wife and a maid are similar, right? Both handle household chores and support someone who works outside, right? I paused and glanced at Lucas. You're looking down on all housewives, not just me. Why would you think that? Lucas yelled like a child. Iris, tell my father we're not breaking up. I can't do that. Why not? Because I'm serious about leaving you. Lucas was speechless. I resumed packing. Lucas, my father-in-law, called out, "Come back here. We need to talk. Give me a break," Lucas said, reluctantly leaving the room. I sighed. I'll go back to my parents' house for now, I concluded and left the apartment. My sudden return caused a stir at home. This is terrible, my mother frowned after hearing the story. My father even wanted to contact Lucas, perhaps to yell at him, but I stopped him. I never wanted to hear Lucas's voice again. What will you do now? I don't know. I had no savings as life had always been a struggle. The only money I had was a little left from my days as a single office worker. But I won't trouble you and Mom. I'll find an apartment and move out. Stay here, my father said, almost pleading. Dad, as a man, I'm ashamed my own daughter is going through this. I can't let you live alone with all these worries. You're exaggerating. I laughed, but my father's face was serious. Stay for us, Iris. Okay. I agreed, my smile fading as tears started to roll down my cheeks. My mother hugged me, and I cried out loud, clinging to her. The next day, I filed for divorce. After mailing the papers to Lucas, I felt a sense of relief. Lucas called soon after, but I didn't answer. A few days later, my father-in-law called. His voice was a mix of concern and uncertainty. I'm sorry for my son's actions. No, it's okay. I was grateful to have seen his true nature early on, I answered honestly. In the past, I might not have blamed Lucas for his questionable behavior. I convinced myself he was just tired or found some other reason, turning a blind eye to the truth. Lucas doesn't want a divorce, but don't worry. I'll take responsibility and free you from my son. Thank you, I said, putting my hand on my chest, though we were talking on the phone. I have a proposal. What is it? I'm thinking of leaving Lucas. I plan to find a facility and move in. That's so sudden. It's something I've been considering for a while. His voice grew somber. Understandably, his son's misdeeds were the cause, yet he hadn't forgotten his original purpose for calling. The reason my son hasn't let me go is the pension and above all the inheritance, right? Yes, his voice was heavy. Lucas won't leave me because he wants to ensure he inherits my estate. You must have heard something from him. Yes, Lucas often mentioned it, he said. Once the inheritance comes through, paying off the house loan will be a breeze. Lucas had sworn me to secrecy, but it didn't matter now. After all, he had squandered our savings on his mistress. The funds for the new house must be insufficient. How would he cover that? He was counting on his father's inheritance. I'm thinking of writing a will. Please don't talk about such grim things. No, I have no intention of leaving any money to Lucas. But Iris, he hesitated briefly, I want to repay you. I'm thinking of leaving my estate to you. What are you saying? I raised my voice. It was natural for family to take care of each other, yet he was thanking me. Perhaps it included compensation for the humiliation I suffered from Lucas. He wanted to convey that, which was why he had called. But I couldn't accept it. Please stop. I can't accept it. I don't even want to think about what happens after you're gone. I have cancer. What? I almost dropped my smartphone. You're joking, right? It seems Lucas hasn't told you about my hospital visits. I thought it was just rehabilitation for your legs. I shuddered at the horror. Lucas was aiming for his father's inheritance. I had thought it was an unrealistic notion. His father was still in his 60s, weakened but seemingly healthy. But the reality was different. Lucas was expecting his father's imminent departure and the inheritance to fall into his lap. Would anyone honestly want to leave an inheritance to such a son? If that's the case, the pieces of the story started to fit together in my mind. My father-in-law was furious, quietly but surely. He had been waiting for an opportunity to retaliate against his son, and now he had found an ally in me. I understand. I'll follow your wishes, father-in-law. Iris, but in return, could you help me with something? What is it? I want to give Lucas and his mistress a taste of their own medicine, I said honestly. My father-in-law had opened up to me, so now it was my turn to be candid. Lucas plans to move in with his mistress into the new house after the divorce. That foolish son, he muttered. But before that, I'm going to make sure he breaks up with her. I had a plan, and with my father-in-law's support, there could be nothing more reassuring. 3 days later, Lucas called me furiously. Iris, what did you tell my father? What do you mean? I feigned ignorance even though I knew exactly what he was talking about. My father is going to disinherit me. If that happens, all his money won't go to you, I said calmly. Lucas's voice became frantic. Not just that, he met with Catherine, my girlfriend, and persuaded her to break up with me. He told her about how I threw a beer bottle at you and called you a maid. But all of that is true, right? I thought to myself that Lucas had it coming. He looked down on women. Once his true nature was revealed, any woman would leave him, especially someone who extracted money from him like water. I couldn't believe she loved Lucas for who he was, but rather was attracted to his financial appeal. Catherine said she didn't think I was that kind of person. But you are that kind of person. What's your problem? Lucas lashed out, but I didn't care. I was the one who had informed my father-in-law about the mistress. You're bold, Lucas. Choosing a mistress from the same apartment complex. I was utterly dismayed. It was a clear sign of how little he regarded me. But if it weren't so, my father-in-law with his bad legs wouldn't have been able to meet the mistress. You're the one who instigated my father. Why would you think that? Ignoring my question, Lucas continued angrily. This is roundabout. If you wanted me to break up with Catherine, you could have told me directly. Instead, you embarrassed me by having my own father expose my shame. That would have a bigger impact on you, I replied calmly. There was no winner's satisfaction. There was only emptiness. You knew and sent my father to humiliate me further. Even if that's true, what of it? You're disowned by your father. The inheritance you relied on won't come. Give up on the new house, I said, ready to end the call. Lucas had nothing left. His mistress had left him, and his dream of a new home had vanished. Wait, what now? Is that all? What do you mean? I was genuinely perplexed. The recipient of my father's inheritance, it's you, right? Quite the turnaround from a maid to this. You still think of me as a maid? Of course, he retorted, trying his best to hurt me. He was miserable and wanted to drag me down with him. Such spiteful thinking must have been at play. It was just as I thought. Lucas, you're really predictable. But thanks to that, you've helped me. I've recorded this conversation. I'll use it when I demand alimony from you. What? He exclaimed in shock. Don't joke around. The more you talk, the worse it gets for you. That's the kind of person you are. Damn it. Lucas sounded utterly frustrated. Alimony after taking the inheritance. You still want to bleed me dry? Yes. I wouldn't be satisfied otherwise. To be honest, the money didn't matter. All I wanted was an apology from him. It should have been enough. You greedy woman, he finally said in a fit of sour grapes, ending the call. I sighed. He still doesn't understand how wrong he was, muttering to myself. I spread out the documents on the table, evidence of Lucas's infidelity, copies of a diary I kept detailing the cruel actions Lucas had continuously taken against me. I gathered these and sent them anonymously to the company where Lucas worked. Then I found out what happened to Lucas from a desperate call he made to me. Just stop it. My reputation is in tatters. I can't stay at my job, and I'm being ignored by the neighbors. But it's all true. If you won't admit it, let others judge. That's what I thought, and they judged Lucas as the bad guy. Still, he continued to defend himself. Now I'm unemployed, and you want alimony. I can't pay that. Really? But you had that savings, I reminded him. He seemed taken aback. I spent all that money on Catherine. I don't have a penny left. That's pathetic. Catherine, too, had left him after all his devotion. I wonder what Lucas, who can't cook for himself, looks like now. Now unemployed, Lucas must be in a pitiful state, holed up in his apartment. Once his food runs out, he'll have to go outside, and when he does, he'll face the cold stares of the neighbors all at once. Come back to me. Why would I? If you come back, it'll clear up the misunderstandings the neighbors have about me. Misunderstandings. That's right. It's all your delusion. His tone softened. You were weak and couldn't work or manage household chores properly. I was supporting you, Iris. I felt a cold wind blow through my mind as I spoke. That's how you treat me. As weak and trying to owe me a favor. I don't want to owe you a favor. I won't be fooled again. No matter what you say, you can't undo those words. I was referring to the day he called me a maid. Our relationship as husband and wife had ended then. It could never go back to how it was. Goodbye, Lucas. Iris, wait. Lucas's desperate shout echoed in my ears. I frowned and ended the call. My father-in-law contacted me. The facility you recommended is great. I'm glad. He had achieved his dream of barrier-free living. I don't have long left. I just want to live comfortably. I informed my father-in-law that I would visit him soon. Lucas tried contacting me several times, but I ignored him. Eventually, it became bothersome, so I changed my phone number. After convincing my worried parents, I now live in a different city. My apartment is smaller than before, but the rent is cheaper. I was enjoying my freedom. Lucas had assumed I couldn't work, but that wasn't true. Since working every day was physically demanding, I started a part-time job with an adjusted schedule. The manager was understanding about my health condition. That's tough, but I think you're doing great, Iris. Thank you, I replied, truly happy. Holding my paycheck, I felt elated. I could live on my own strength. I earned this myself. The days when I was controlled and forced to depend on Lucas were over. I had escaped the nightmare. Though I often missed work and my salary was modest, it was enough to pay rent with some leftover. With what I have now, I can survive. I've really gotten the hang of saving money. I wasn't sure if I was impressed or dismayed. In any case, I was good at saving. I would live on my own or perhaps not entirely alone. Oh, there he was again, a customer who always came at the same time. He was quiet, only saying, "Thank you" at the checkout. Yet that single word made my heart flutter. He would look at me intently, then awkwardly shift his gaze. He must like you, Iris. Really? I smiled, hoping it was true.
I'm just saying it's time for you to leave. Can't you look at yourself in the mirror and feel embarrassed? Are you embarrassed by me? Yes, it's everything. It's frustrating that even my close friends and boss are here. Thinking that people will find out you're becoming part of the family is embarrassing. My name is Melanie. I was born with a physical condition, and as you can see, I use a wheelchair instead of my legs. I grew up in a family of 4. My parents, who are now in heaven, and my lively brother Anthony. My late parents raised me with just as much love and care as any other child, showering me with affection. My slightly overprotective but kind brother Anthony has always been a strong supporter. That's how I've been living a happy life. And now, Madam CEO, here's the schedule for this month. I'm grateful and happy to be busy, but I do wish for a little break. In fact, despite my appearance, I'm the CEO of a company. Even though my body is different from others, I do my best in what I can do. That thought drove me to study hard, not wanting to be outdone by others. Being naturally competitive, my hard work paid off, and I was able to start my own business. While I'm discussing the schedule with my secretary, excuse me, I've got a call. Hello, Anthony, what's up? Hey, sorry to bother you when you're busy. Actually, I'm getting married, so I wanted to tell you first. Melanie, really? Congratulations. What's the person like? We met through work. A kind person, really good at cooking and housework. Just wonderful. That's great. As your sister, I'm relieved you found someone. Stop talking like our mom, will you? Well, I was just worried if you could really find someone wonderful. Haha, well, the wedding is set for 2 months from now. That's quite sudden, isn't it? With how things are nowadays. We just thought it was the right time. I'm sorry it's all so rushed, but can you make it, Melanie? Of course, I'll be there. It's your wedding after all. I'll make it work, no matter what. Oh, but you better make it to my wedding too. Thanks. Wait, your wedding, Melanie? I haven't heard anything about it. Haha, don't work too hard. Okay, see you. As I frantically managed my work schedule for the wedding, my secretary watched over me with a warm gaze. Being in different industries, my brother and I are both busy people. Despite never having met his fiancée even once, the day of the wedding arrived. As I was about to enter the venue, "Hey, you there. Wait a moment." "Oh, are you talking to me? Aren't you, by any chance?" "What? It's obvious, isn't it? I'm the bride, the star of today's show. Nice to meet you. I'm Melanie, Anthony's sister. I'm glad to meet you. By chance, I met Victoria, the bride. I greeted her, but her attitude seemed off somehow. While I found Victoria's demeanor odd and was wondering about it suddenly. Hey, what's with this woman? I can't believe this. Victoria, what happened all of a sudden? Don't touch me, please. I wasn't informed about having a sister with such a condition. I knew Anthony had a sister, but not like this. I had no idea you were like this. It seemed Victoria didn't approve of my appearance. The reason she seemed displeased when we greeted each other was apparently this. What's the matter with you? I don't care if you're Anthony's sister or whatever. That's a separate matter. How will you compensate if you infect me with something? Please calm down. There's nothing about me that you can catch. Keep quiet. Your droplets are spreading. I can't believe this. People like you should have been mentioned beforehand. Finding this out on the same day as the wedding is the worst. What about me is the worst? You should figure it out yourself, right? Besides, Anthony and I are getting married, so I'll have to interact with you whether I like it or not. If people find out that someone like you is my sister-in-law, I'll be humiliated in front of everyone. Use your head a bit. Use my head? What do you mean? I'm saying you should be considerate enough to leave. Can't you look at yourself in the mirror and feel ashamed? Embarrassment? Am I an embarrassment to you? Yes, all of it. Everything. Ah, it's so frustrating. Even my close friends and boss are here. And to think that people will find out that you're becoming part of the family is embarrassing. Do you always think like this? Huh, that's none of your business. Since I've caught Anthony, the CEO, don't you dare get in my way. I was certain that my brother was being deceived by Victoria, who was clearly putting on an act. My brother, who was always kind and never got angry at all, had also been caught by a strange woman. Before, while remembering those times, I didn't want to cause any more commotion and spoil my brother's wedding further. Thinking of how important this day was for my dear brother, I decided, then I'll be leaving now. I'll just leave the gift here. Huh? I don't need money from someone like you who doesn't look like they could hold a decent job. You're just leeching off Anthony anyway, aren't you? I bet your gift is something measly, like $5, right? Is that so? Then I'll take this gift of $50,000 back with me. It's quite heavy, though. $50,000. Wait. If you had that kind of money, you should have said so earlier. I'll take it. Sorry, I've already put it away. It's impossible now. I'll be leaving then. No, you leave that gift here. And why do you even have that much money? Huh, I see now. That's money you took from Anthony, isn't it? No, actually, I run a company that develops skateboarding equipment with a global reputation. Despite how I look, I do make an annual revenue of $500 million. So, a gift like this is. Then all the more reason to leave that $50,000 here. I'll use it for Anthony and my happiness. Honestly, I don't approve of your marriage with my brother. I can't accept someone like you who's only after his money marrying him. Stop raising your voice. It's your fault for being deceived. What's all this about, Anthony? When did you get here? Looking towards the voice, I saw my brother had appeared at some point. A shocked Victoria said, this is... Well, what are you talking about, brother? No, it's not like that. I'm not after the money at all. I just genuinely wanted to support and be there for you, Anthony. Don't say such things. Hey, Victoria, what did you say to my precious sister, Melanie? What did you mean by what you said to Melanie, Anthony? Ahaha. Why are you so angry? It doesn't matter to me if you're after my money or whatever. You can do as you like. It's my responsibility. And even if we break up someday, I won't be angry. But what I absolutely won't forgive is you disrespecting my dear Melanie. I was very surprised to see my usually gentle and never angry brother raise his voice. But I also felt genuinely happy to hear him standing up for me. Meanwhile, Victoria, scolded by my brother, was, well, then she can attend the wedding. Okay, so first, Anthony, let's calm down, all right? What do you mean she can attend? We don't need your permission after all. Do you really think I'd go through with a wedding with someone who has been so cruel to Melanie, the most important person in my world? There's no way that's happening. Is there? Why not? I just said your sister can come. That doesn't matter anymore. I can't and won't become family with a woman who insults my family. We're breaking off the wedding? Off the wedding? Why? Both Melanie and I were left by our parents who went to heaven when we still wanted them around. Melanie cried out of loneliness. But she tried to cheer me up when she saw me down. Even though she wanted to cry herself, she held it back and instead gave me the brightest smile. At that time, she was just a kid in elementary school, and I was already in high school, a grown man. She held back her tears so much more than me and told me to smile. That's how I got back my strength. Brother, you remembered that? Of course I do. How could I forget? You were holding back so many tears but still managed to smile. I still remember that smile of yours to this day. That's why, even when work gets tough, I think of her smile and it keeps me going. She tried to do house chores she had only learned in home economics, but never actually done, and before I knew it, she wasn't just making meals. She was preparing lunches too. Melanie and I supported each other through life like that. I won't forgive a woman who insults such an important family member. Apologize to Melanie. Supporting each other? Really, that's so exaggerated. Take back every single thing you said to Melanie. Look into Melanie's eyes and apologize properly. Don't say anything else. My brother repeatedly insisted that Victoria apologize to me for the disrespect she showed. We siblings have had our struggles that only we can understand. Maybe that's also why it felt like an insult. As I stood there unable to do anything but watch my brother, someone approached us. Sorry to interrupt. Just popping in here. Hey, do you even understand what kind of company you're working for? What? Why is the CEO here? You see, Anthony has helped me a lot in business, and we even go out for meals together when we have the time in our private lives. Isn't our company a distributor of sporting equipment? Yet your attitude and behavior are utterly unacceptable from any angle. Wait, Henry, why are you here? I'm sorry you had to witness such an unpleasant scene. But do you know Melanie? I had no idea at all. I'm also surprised to learn that Anthony's dear sister is none other than Melanie. I'm in a relationship with Melanie, and I want to marry her. So I'm seeking my brother-in-law's permission. This is what I've been thinking of daily, really bringing this up right now. and suddenly slipping into brother-in-law mode. Typical Henry. This is Henry for you. Melanie is getting married to Henry, but I trust you, Henry. I know you'll take good care of Melanie. No, why is there such a sudden happy atmosphere? Anthony, I swear to devote my life to making Melanie happy. I'm confident I won't lose to you, Anthony. Please allow me to marry Melanie. And you're saying this right now, here. The one who appeared was my boyfriend, Henry, who also happens to be the CEO of Victoria's company. Henry has been mingling with my brother both in business and private life, but neither of them knew how we were all connected. So their surprise was evident. Victoria, witnessing all this, said, "Wait a minute. What? So this woman is the girlfriend of our company CEO, and Anthony, the savvy entrepreneur, is her sibling. That's too lucky. Even if it's luck, it's Melanie who paved her way. She's always been desperate to find what she could do. She's faced everything head-on, used her brains, and worked hard to get where she is now. Don't belittle her success as merely good luck. And just so you know, she just became my fiancée a moment ago. So you understand? Understand what it means to insult the woman I'm marrying, right? So what if I did? I don't know if it's a girlfriend or fiancé or Melanie or whatever. What's a CEO going to do, huh? It's just personal stuff anyway, right? Well, yes, but there are clients here, and the company's name is involved, right? Your remarks, Victoria, are a serious issue. It's a pretty problematic statement in general. In my company, that would easily be grounds for dismissal. I also don't want to deal with a company that harbors such individuals. Wait, you can't just fire me. That's going to be a problem. I apologize. Just forgive me. I absolutely can't stand the idea of someone like you becoming my sister-in-law. If you can't understand why, you need to apologize. There's no point in talking any further. Wait, please. Both breaking off the wedding and getting fired are problems. How am I supposed to live if that happens? Why don't you just look for another company? I'm done with you. But at least get me a job at your company, Anthony. What? Your way of thinking is messed up. There's no way you'd get hired after all this. Anyway, it's impossible because I'm Anthony's family. It's embarrassing, isn't it? Victoria, realizing she's about to be both broken off and unemployed, was panicking. It's not embarrassing. I just misspoke earlier. If you call it misspeaking, doesn't that mean you actually think that way, Victoria? Do you really have any intention of apologizing? It doesn't seem like it, does it? I've had many people look at me in various ways, but you're the first to hurl such abuse directly at me. It was quite a shock. Now I understand firsthand that there are people who think like you. Wait, does that mean you'll forgive me? No, I won't forgive you. Who wouldn't be upset after hearing such things? Would you be happy if it were you, Victoria? If it were me, I'd probably respond twice as harshly. That's how it is. It's going to be tough for you from here on. But good luck, because marrying a woman like you who lacks even a shred of compassion is impossible. Marrying someone who spews hurtful words so easily would probably disappoint our parents in heaven too. That's true. Mom was kind, and Dad was very compassionate. I see. I just realized my ideal image of a couple was that of my parents. I was too slow to realize I want to become a couple like that with Henry, you know? We can become like them together, Melanie. Ah, Henry, would you mind letting go of Melanie's hand for a moment? It seems that your mind settled down completely, brother. And one more thing, remember that we're billing you, Victoria, for all the wedding expenses, okay? Ouch, that's going to hurt the wallet. Well, dear best Victoria, but I can't have the wedding called off. I've already told all my friends, and I've posted about the dress, the food, the venue visits on social media. Then maybe you should delete those posts. Surely the majority who sees them are strangers, right? Is it really fun to boast to people who don't even know who you are? See you around. Wait, this is seriously impossible. Think it over, please. All right. I feel like I hear something, but let's not mind it and move on. Wait, where are you going, brother? We're off to host an engagement announcement party for Henry and Melanie. Well then, my princess, shall we go? Wait, what? Brother Henry. Hey, this is suddenly so embarrassing. Thanks to my brother's thoughtful arrangement, the wedding was transformed into an engagement announcement party for Henry and me. Many work colleagues were invited, and there were lots of mutual acquaintances. As soon as Henry and I greeted everyone, my brother burst into tears. Some people laughed at the sight, while others, perhaps empathizing, shed tears too. Thanks to my brother's good nature, Henry and I could announce our engagement in a warm atmosphere. Meanwhile, Victoria was expelled from the venue. As my brother said, Victoria ended up paying the entire cost of the ceremony, and she had to take on debt to make the payment. Victoria had hoped to flaunt the titles of CEO's wife and working celebrity for a while after the marriage. However, reality was harsh. She was dismissed from her job, and instead of being a CEO's wife, she's spending her days chased by debts. Moreover, unluckily, since she planned to live with my brother, her apartment was already terminated. Some people in the same industry claimed to have seen her in the park, but whether it was really Victoria remained unknown. And as for me, Melanie is finally getting married. Don't worry, the two of us will live happily together. That's right, brother. Henry is trustworthy. I know it's safe, but still, what's this feeling? Hey, Anthony, if it's not too presumptuous of me to suggest, could the three of us visit the grave on our next day off? I'd like to greet your parents too. Henry, you're such a good guy. Hey, brother, you're going to make me cry again. Haha. Thanks to Henry's suggestion, our next day off will be spent visiting her parents' grave. Though my brother broke off his wedding, he seemed to be his usual self, which was reassuring. I hope someday a wonderful person appears for my brother too, and that he becomes the happiest man in the world. Thinking such thoughts, I felt my brother share the same feelings. Looking up at the sky, there was a clear blue expanse without a single cloud. Watching the profile of my brother gazing at the sky, I silently conveyed in my heart, "Thank you for raising me with so much care." When I checked my phone, I noticed I had 13 missed calls, all from my mother-in-law, Martha. Not again, I thought to myself. Just then, my phone vibrated again. I answered reluctantly, and Martha's voice came through, filled with anger. She demanded to know why the monthly allowance of $3,000 hadn't been sent yet. I tried to explain that the payment hadn't been deposited, but Martha ignored my circumstances and only focused on her own desires. I couldn't tolerate her insensitivity any longer. In desperation, I finally told her that her son had passed away, so I couldn't send any allowance. My name is Jennifer Smith. I'm 32 years old, and I work at a major financial firm while also managing household responsibilities. I married 2 years ago. I met my husband, Mark, through our shared hobbies. He was kind and had a warm smile that drew me to him. We quickly fell in love, got engaged within a year, and believed we were perfect for each other. After a smooth courtship, we married. But then came the problem. Martha, my mother-in-law, her husband had passed away. A few years ago, Mark's family situation became apparent to me. Since Mark didn't have any siblings, his only remaining family was his mother, Martha. The trouble started when I visited Martha's home for the first time to introduce myself before our wedding. "Nice to meet you, Martha," I said. Martha clearly showed her displeasure and responded, "So you're Mark's fiancée?" "Yes, my name is Jennifer Miller." Martha then commented, "You're a rather plain girl. I wonder what Mark sees in you, huh?" I couldn't tell if she was joking or being serious, but her words shocked me deeply. Seeing my reaction, Mark frowned at his mother. "Hey, Mom, what's with the sudden harsh words? How can you say such things to the person I chose?" "No, Mark. I'm just trying to choose a suitable woman for you," Martha replied. Mark retorted, "Choose? I'm the one who chose her. You have no right to meddle. Don't say it in such a cold way. I'm just telling the truth because I care about you." Mark argued with his mother about supporting our relationship, but the tension only grew. It was awkward for me to witness this clash between them, especially since it was my first meeting with Martha. Despite the discomfort, we managed to express our intention to marry. As we were leaving, Martha called out to Mark, sounding somewhat disgruntled. "Mark, can I have a word? You're going to keep that promise after you get married, right?" "What promise?" Mark asked. "You know about the allowance," Martha replied. Mark agreed to take care of it, but asked to discuss it later. This conversation left an uncomfortable atmosphere between my husband and his mother, thick with tension. In the car on the way home, I asked Mark about the allowance issue. "Hey Mark, about the conversation you had with your mom as we were leaving." "Yeah, I should have told you about it, Jennifer. After my dad passed away, I've been sending money to my mom every month." "How much?" I asked. $2,000, Mark admitted. $2,000? I couldn't hide my surprise. Mark sighed deeply and explained slowly, "Actually, my mom has a debt from a long time ago, when she lost a lot of money at a casino. She's been paying it off, but her health isn't great, so she spends a lot of time at home and still needs money to live on." I was surprised and asked, "But isn't $2,000 a bit much? Can't we lower the amount?" Mark replied, "If I try to lower it, she keeps calling me repeatedly. No matter what, she's still my mom, and I worry about her living alone." I understood that Mark was devoted to his mother because she was his only family left after his father passed away. Despite Martha's difficult personality, she was still his beloved mother. I only saw my husband as a kind person at that time. 2 months after our wedding, during my lunch break, I received a phone call from Martha on my smartphone. "Hello, Martha," I answered. "Jennifer, long time no see. Can we chat for a bit?" Martha's tone was cheerful. "Sure. What can I do for you?" I asked. "I was hoping you could start sending me money," Martha said bluntly. I was taken aback and struggled to respond. Martha seemed excited to continue. "You mentioned before that you're working for a financial company, right? That means you have a good salary, doesn't it?" "Well, not exactly," I replied, trying to dodge the request. Martha insisted, "You're lying to avoid giving me money." Frustrated, I asked, "What do you mean?" "You're still receiving financial support from Mark, aren't you?" Martha challenged. "So what?" I replied firmly. I felt Martha was not appreciating the fact that she was already receiving $2,000 a month from Mark. Martha then asked for an additional $1,000, claiming it would avoid burdening Mark further. She explained, "I have Mark as a guarantor for my debts. If I fail to make payments, the debt collectors will go after him. Do you understand?" "But aren't you using part of Mark's $2,000 to pay back the debt?" I asked. Martha admitted, "I'm short. I haven't told Mark, but I have a significant amount of debt." It was clear from Martha's tone that this was a serious issue, and even her husband was unaware of it. Considering our future plans of having children and increasing expenses, taking over Martha's debt was not easy. If Martha's payments fell behind and the debt defaulted to Mark, the interest would accumulate significantly over time. Refusing to send money could eventually become a problem for my husband. It seemed better for Martha to address her debt directly. After reluctantly agreeing to Martha's proposal, I started sending her money as requested. Martha was thrilled and exclaimed, "Good Jennifer, I knew you would say that. The total, with Mark's contribution, will be $3,000. This means you can pay off your debt, right?" "Yes, of course. I should be able to pay it all off in about a year," Martha assured me. "You promise you'll make sure to pay off all your debts?" I asked. Martha confirmed, "I get it. So, I'll be expecting it from this month onwards." She then ended the call abruptly. The stress from work and this emotional burden took a toll on me. $1,000 a month. That's going to be rough, I thought to myself. But I rationalized that it was to prevent future problems for us. If Martha couldn't make a living, it would upset Mark as well. That night, I told my husband about the situation. He told me I didn't have to do this, but I had already given my word to Martha, believing it was a decision made for our future well-being. Mark expressed his gratitude and understanding, although he looked sorry throughout the conversation. Time passed, and 2 years later, we were still transferring $3,000 every month to Martha. Unexpectedly, Mark felt ill about 2 months ago and has been unable to work. He's receiving disability benefits, but they are much less than his previous salary. Last month, I managed to transfer $3,000 to Martha from my savings, but if this situation continues, it will become very challenging for us. What's more, Martha hasn't visited her sick son even once. Despite us informing her about his hospitalization, she only contacts me to ask if we're still sending the money. Frustrated and angry, I decided to confront Mark about the issue. Don't you think it's wrong that Martha is only concerned about money, even though you're in such a state? We need to think seriously about what to do going forward. I expressed my concern. Mark agreed. Yeah, I've been thinking the same thing. I don't want to put more strain on you, Jennifer. This month, too, she's been bombarding me with calls and messages asking if we've sent the money yet. Are you serious? How can she only think about money when her own son is sick? Mark's face showed anger and weariness. Then, as if he had an idea, he exclaimed with a sly grin, "That's it?" "What is it, Mark?" I asked, curious. "This is our last resort. I've come up with something. Something good for my mom," Mark replied cryptically. Mark suggested a plan that surprised me. Although it seemed inappropriate, it appeared to be the only way to make Martha understand. A few weeks later, Mark was discharged from the hospital, but Martha didn't reply to any of our messages. We decided not to inform her about Mark's discharge. Martha has been relentlessly demanding money, showing no concern for her son's well-being. While Mark and I were having tea, my phone buzzed with a message revealing 13 missed calls from Martha. As expected, my phone rang again, and it was Martha calling once more. "Hello," I answered, turning on the speaker so Mark could hear too. Martha immediately shouted, "Where's the $3,000 for this month?" "Excuse me, Martha. The money hasn't been transferred yet," I replied calmly. "I don't care if he's in the hospital or whatever. It's none of my business. You're working at a good place, right? You must have plenty of savings. Hurry up and transfer it here," Martha demanded angrily. Then, unbelievably, she said something shocking. "Listen, since you married Mark, if he can't pay, you have to pay me. Understand? If you refuse, I'll make you the guarantor. Got it?" At that moment, something inside me snapped. Martha was openly displaying her greed without considering our situation at all. I had reached my breaking point with her. She didn't even try to reflect on her own actions. I had no choice but to resort to the last resort. I firmly declared into my smartphone, "Mark has passed away. I can't send you any more money." Martha responded with baffled disbelief. "What?" This was the last resort that Mark suggested, lying to Martha about his death to see her reaction. If she showed any sign of sadness or reflection on her behavior and apologized, we would continue to support her financially. But if she didn't and demanded money, we would sever ties completely. Deep down, I thought even a money-driven woman like Martha would deeply reflect on her actions upon hearing that her own son had died. However, Martha burst into loud laughter. "What's so funny?" I asked, taken aback. "Well, isn't it obvious? If Mark is dead, that means his inheritance will be distributed to me too. I've been looking into it since I heard that Mark was sick," Martha said callously. I never thought that when she first heard that her son was sick, she wouldn't look into treatment, but into how the inheritance would be divided. I thought to myself, overwhelmed with anger and disbelief. My husband seemed to feel the same way. As our eyes met, he slowly nodded. This was the signal to continue with the plan. Once again, I said firmly to Martha, "Martha, did you hear what I said? Mark is dead." Martha's response was heartless, I heard. "What about it? Aren't you sad your own son passed away before you? Just make sure to send me some. I won't let you get away with not doing it." With that, I hung up the call, feeling numb. I glanced at my husband, who looked visibly shaken and red with anger. "Mark, are you okay?" I asked, concerned. "I'm cutting ties with her. She'll likely come here, Mark replied decisively. As expected, a few days later, Martha showed up at our house. I decided to hide my husband in the next room and confront Martha myself. As she approached me, she looked furious. Hey, give me Mark's inheritance right now, Martha demanded aggressively. I responded firmly, he's already dead, isn't he? It's pointless to say anything now. Yet you never even visited him. Are you really his mother? You're so annoying. I won't give you anything. Martha continued to press. Give me the inheritance right away. I don't mind getting a lawyer. Realizing that further conversation was useless, I thought to myself that my husband should come out now. As he emerged from the next room, Martha was startled, as if she had seen a ghost. Mark, why weren't you dead? Long time no see, Mom, my husband said, surprising Martha. I'm sorry, but the news about my death was a lie. I wanted to confirm your true nature, Mom. I was curious about how you'd handle the allowance if your son, died. But you turned out to be a gold digger, just as I suspected, my husband accused her. Martha was taken aback. What? How could you be so disrespectful? My husband silenced her. I'm cutting ties with a toxic parent like you. Martha was in shock, unable to comprehend that her own son was severing ties with her. What? What does this mean, Mark? Martha asked desperately. It means exactly what I said. I can't consider someone like you as my mother, my husband replied coldly. Desperate, Martha pleaded. But what about the allowance? Do you really think I would? My husband interrupted firmly. You're on your own with the debts. Removing. Martha tearfully reached out to my husband, but he forcefully shook off her hand, looked at her coldly, and said, I don't care about your living expenses. You have been living off us without even a single apology. I really understand your despicable nature now. Don't you dare show up in front of us again. Martha begged, Wait, Mark. Are you going to abandon your mother? Ignoring her pleas, my husband grabbed Martha's arm, dragged her to the front door, threw her shoes and bag outside, and chased her out of the house. Martha made a scene outside for a while but eventually disappeared, perhaps unable to withstand the scrutiny of the neighbors. She tried contacting us multiple times, but we ignored all her attempts. We blocked Martha's number and finished moving. Regarding the matter of co-signing for the debts, it became invalid since Martha had made Mark the co-signer without his consent. Therefore, he was not responsible for her debts. Without the allowance from us, Martha seems to be leading a miserable life. It's only natural since she had been using the allowance for her gambling habits instead of paying off her debts. She still has a mountain of debts and is chased by debt collectors every day. Unable to gamble anymore, she seems to be working from dawn to dusk. It's unlikely that she will be able to pay off her debts completely, and she will have to keep working until she is unable to move. As for us, we are enjoying fulfilling days in our new home. My husband's condition has stabilized, and he has returned to work. Moreover, there's a new life growing in my belly, and we're going to have an additional member in our family next year. From now on, we want to spend happy days as a family of 3. Do you want to come over to my place? Those were the words that started everything between the girl and me. She looked like she was just sleeping. It had been a while since I last saw my sister. She quietly closed her eyes, not laughing, not crying, just sleeping in the cold coffin. Seeing her like that, the word passed away vaguely crossed my mind. But she didn't look dead at all. Her expression was so peaceful, it felt unreal. She was still so young, someone murmured sadly. My sister was in her mid-30s. After a period of overwork and irregular living, she suffered a stroke. Her life should have had much more ahead. There must have been so many things she wanted to do, and she must have regretted it the most. What will become of Melanie? Someone's words shifted my gaze to a certain direction. In the far corner of the funeral home, a girl was holding my sister's portrait dearly. That was Melanie, my sister's only daughter. My sister married young and had a child, but her happy marital life didn't last long, and she soon divorced. Are you going to be okay on her own? Back then, our parents were very concerned about her, suggesting she should come back home because of her job and the child from her former husband. Yet she declined with a smile. "I'm fine, leave it to me." Even now, thinking back, that line was very much like her. She was exceptionally responsible and family-oriented. That's probably why she said that, not wanting to trouble our parents. True to her word, she raised her daughter, Melanie, admirably. I hadn't seen Melanie since she was little because my sister was always so busy. When I saw Melanie again after such a long time, she was already a high school student, and I was amazed at how quickly she had grown. What will Melanie do now? Thinking about her future made me feel anxious, as if it were my own business. "Mom, what's going to happen to Melanie now?" "In fact, she's going to a facility." "What?" I couldn't grasp the words immediately. It might have been the obvious course of action, but since Melanie was already alone and probably feeling lonely, being in an unfamiliar place could make her feel even lonelier. She must have cried a lot. Her eyes were red and swollen, her slender body shaking slightly as she hugged my sister's portrait tightly. Seeing Melanie and my sister's smiling face in the portrait made me want to help her, and before I knew it, I was walking towards her. "What are you doing, Carl?" I heard my mother's voice calling me, but I couldn't pay attention. "Melanie." I stopped in front of her and called her name, and she slowly looked up and stared back at me. "Carl." Her voice calling my name was trembling as if she was about to break. I bent down to meet her gaze and spoke gently. "Melanie, if you want, would you like to come to my place?" Hearing my words, her eyes widened. "Carl, what are you saying?" My mother hurried over and grabbed my shoulder, but I reassured her and continued, "If you really want to go to a facility, then that's fine. But if not, come stay with me." While saying that, I suddenly remembered my sister's dazzling smile that I had seen since I was young. I want to protect this girl for my dearly beloved sister's sake. Melanie was staring at my outstretched hand, hesitating. I waited, not rushing her, letting her make the choice. "Yes, I'll go," she said, looking at me with a determined gaze as she gently placed her hand in mine. If Mom could see this, she'd definitely cry. Yeah, I think so too. After that, we convinced my mother and the relatives, and I went back to my house with Melanie. As soon as we entered the room, Melanie sighed with a look of disbelief, glancing around my room. It's fair to say it wasn't in the cleanest state. I should have made time to tidy up before bringing her here. I'd always been bad at organizing, something my sister used to give me a hard time about. And it brings back those memories. "Really? You don't care about it?" Never changed since the old days, a voice that sounded like my sister's echoed in my head, and I could even see her disapproving, which made me smile as I saw Melanie's face, thinking how much they were like mother and daughter. "Carl, don't just stand there, let's clean up." That moment, Melanie handed me a trash bag, and I took it, snapping out of my reverie. "Let's get to it." After about 30 minutes of cleaning together, the room, which had been a mess, was quickly tidied up. Then we decided to have a late dinner, opting for simplicity. We ate the junk food I bought on the way home, which Melanie seemed to enjoy, having not eaten it in a while. "So, what should we think for beginning this new life? Can you commute to school from here?" "It's just a different bus route, so I can commute," she replied. I was worried that bringing her here on a whim might inconvenience her, but knowing that eased my concerns. Besides getting a new bus pass, the real challenge starts now. "Is there something wrong?" Melanie swallowed nervously, showing an anxious face. "It's about cooking." "Cooking?" She didn't seem to understand at first, so I made sure to clarify. "I'm not good at cooking," I said it with a serious face, releasing a heavy atmosphere, and she looked at me, blinking in surprise. I wonder if she thought it was odd for someone who's lived alone to say that. Up until now, I've been getting by with fast food or ready-made meals from the supermarket. But with Melanie living with me, it's a different story. It's not great for someone her age to have an unbalanced diet. As I looked down, unable to bear the silence, she suddenly burst out laughing. I hesitantly looked up, and she was shaking with laughter. "This is a big deal for me, you know. eating bought meals every day isn't really good, right? I know, that's true. Her continuing to laugh made me feel embarrassed, yet seeing her smile like that was somewhat reassuring. Mom was right. What do you mean? Mom used to say a lot. Carl is kind and decent looking, but when it comes to cooking, he's really hopeless. She smiled. I was surprised my sister had talked about me like that. I'll do the cooking. If I don't do anything after being brought here, Mom would scold me. Melanie's smile was bright. Simultaneously, her voice sounded pained and sorrowful, which just made my heart ache. I tried not to cry, just like she did, and put on a smile as I said, "Thank you, that would really help. Leave it to me." She flashed a bright smile, so much like my sister's that I almost let the tears spill. But I quickly looked away so Melanie wouldn't notice. "Carl, what's wrong all of a sudden?" "No, it's nothing. Just got something in my eyes. If I started crying now, I'd only make her worry unnecessarily. Plus, she's been putting on a brave face with a smile since the funeral, not shedding any tears. I needed to be strong too, I thought." After that, the days went surprisingly smoothly. "Good morning, Carl." Turns out Melanie is a morning person. By the time I got up, she had already made breakfast and sandwiches for lunch, which really surprised me at first. Moreover, every dish she made was delicious. She learned from her mother since she was a kid. "You're not a morning person, just like Mom. I'd always used to get up early. Actually, not always. But I wanted to seem like a good uncle in front of my niece, so I bragged a bit." Melanie was not only good at cooking, but seemed to be skilled in all household chores, teaching me various things. On days off, sort the laundry by colors to prevent color transfer, trying not to laugh at her slightly proud posture. I responded, "Yes, Teacher Melanie." Though I was a bit anxious at first about how things would turn out, she was very capable, and all in all, we had fun. More importantly, I found myself feeling reassured by her gradually increasing smiles. Ever since the day I brought Melanie here, I've been reminded of my sister's words over and over. For me, my girl is like. One night, past 1 o'clock a.m., as I was about to go to bed, I noticed light coming from Melanie's room. "Huh? What's she doing up at this time?" Curious, I peeked into her room and saw her focused on her desk. She was oblivious to my presence, right? She's a high school student, a senior, in the midst of choosing and preparing for college. According to what my mother told me, her grades are among the top in her class. Despite that, she always helps out around the house. Maybe I've been making her worry unnecessarily. That's when an idea struck me. Okay, this is it. It's Melanie who's working hard, and it will be her who faces the outcome, not me. There's not much I can do for her, but that's exactly why there are things I can do. Ouch! Hot water splashed onto my fingertip, the sound echoing in the quiet kitchen. Did Melanie hear that? For a moment, I tensed and expected a reaction, but there was silence. I breathed a sigh of relief. All right, this is good. Later, I visited her room again. After knocking softly a few times, I slowly opened the door. Melanie, startled by the sound, turned around with a jerk. "What's up?" Seeing the study notes filled with dense text on her desk, I could tell how hard she's been working. "May I come in?" Sure, given she's a teenager. I asked for permission before stepping into her room. Then, I offered her the tray I was holding. "I remember your mom mentioned you like hot chocolate, so here." Melody took the tray, her eyes lighting up at the sight of the hot chocolate and hot dog, her face breaking into a happy smile. Hot chocolate and hot dog. That's an odd combo, right? Yeah, but that's all I could make, and I thought it'd be just right for a late-night snack. You like ketchup, right? I added so much. The hot dog was so simple, but I prepared them with all the love I could muster. Thank you, I'm really happy. This is nothing. Just make sure you don't stay up too late for tomorrow, okay? Got it. I smiled kindly at her and quietly closed the door behind me. By the way, how's living with your niece going? During lunch at the company cafeteria, my coworker Charles, seeing the sandwich Melanie had prepared for me, asked with keen interest. It's going well. She seems busy with her studies lately. Since that day, the light in Melanie's room has often stayed on late into the night. She must be in the critical phase of her exam preparation. I've been quietly rooting for her. Last time I asked, she was about elementary school age. But now she's already that old. But really, it's amazing. It hasn't been long since her mom passed away, and yet she's teaching you household chores as well as cooking for you. She's really mature. I think that's right. I think to myself, I hadn't realized how capable Melanie was until we started living together. When I saw her at the funeral after a long time, her eyes were red and swollen. She must have cried a lot. But since we started living together, I haven't seen her cry even once. Lately, I've been seeing her smile more. She must be trying her best to get through this in her own way. Maybe I'll buy a cake on the way home today. Wow, you sound just like an uncle. Cut it out. I am Melanie's uncle after all. I've been busy with work, and I haven't even been able to properly prepare a midnight snack for her. I feel like I haven't done anything for her. I remember she said she had an important presentation today. Maybe I should get her a little something as a way to say good job. There's a small cake shop near the grocery store, and once when we passed by, I didn't miss Melanie murmuring, "That looks delicious," as she looked at the cakes in the window. I also noticed she was particularly eyeing the chocolate cakes. After work, I hurried to the cake shop and bought various types of chocolate cakes. Looking at the white box, I couldn't help but smile. I wonder how Melanie will react. Imagining her smile, I hurried home. I'm home. Nobody responded. For some reason, the usual greeting wasn't there. What's going on? Wondering, I walked down the hall and noticed a faint light coming from Melanie's room. Maybe she was concentrating on her studies, cooped up in her room. I moved slowly towards it. I was feeling somehow that I needed to be quiet, though it's my own house. With each step closer, faint voices reached my ears, growing louder until I realized it was the sound of crying. My heart clenched. Had Melanie been crying alone in her room that whole time? I believed she was doing so well. I chose to watch over her from afar, believing in her strength. I'm right here for her. What am I doing? I slowly grasped the doorknob and said, "Melanie, I'm coming in, okay?" As I opened the door, Melanie turned around quickly, surprise written all over her face. Tears were rolling down her cheeks. It's not what it seems. I mean, trying to hide her tearful eyes and wet cheeks, she roughly wiped them with the sleeve of her shirt. My heart ached at the sight, and I gently approached and hugged her. It's okay to cry. At my words, her face froze for a moment, then contorted as she began to cry. Her small body leaned into me, and the next moment, she burst into loud sobs, tears streaming down her face. I should have done this for her long ago. Melanie was bearing it all alone, and I took her strength for granted. I felt really sorry. I gently stroked her small head. After crying for a while, she seemed to calm down and started to speak. I've been trying hard with my studies, but after Mom passed away, my grades dropped, and I felt so frustrated. I want to do well for Mom, but it's been hard. I don't know what to do. I wanted to give something back to her. Hearing her earnest feelings, my eyes welled up. I remembered something my sister used to say. Mom always said that you are her treasure. Really, for me, my girl is a treasure. The look on my sister's face when she thought about Melanie was full of love. It was clear how deeply she adored her daughter. You don't have to push yourself too hard. Just by living happily every day, Mom would be happy. And as for studies, there's always a chance to make up for it. You've done your best, and that's enough to repay her. So don't be too hard on yourself. And if you ever find things tough, please talk to me. To me, you are as precious as a treasure. With tears still streaming down her face, Melanie smiled a relieved smile at my words. Thank you, Carl. Maybe I've been forcing myself to put on a brave face, trying not to be a burden. Not at all. You're a great girl, and you've really been a big help. Oh, that's right. I bought some chocolate cake on my way home. Let's eat it together. Yes, I'll eat it. Seeing Melanie's happy face as she ate the cake made me smile too. Our life together is just beginning, but I want to protect her going forward, for my sister in heaven as well. That was the renewed promise I made to myself. I've been with my wife for 14 years. We dated for 3 years before we got married, so if I count that, it's 17 years together. Despite nearly 2 decades together, she betrayed me. It all started because of my parents, who scammed me out of almost $90,000, my life savings. I own a chain of restaurants with some friends from business school. It's a moderately successful business, and we make decent money. I have been saving up to start my own side business and expand. However, last month my parents, aged 64 and 63, told me they were in financial trouble. They needed my help to bail them out, or they could lose their home and all their property. They explained that before I was born, my dad's uncle lent them money because my mom had to quit her job when she was pregnant with me. They borrowed more money over the years and couldn't pay it back. When the uncle passed away, his son inherited the debt and threatened legal action. My parents claimed they gave him everything they had, but needed $90,000 more to settle the debt. They said they'd already used up their retirement savings and were desperate not to lose their home. I foolishly trusted them and gave them the money, hoping to prevent their suffering. I suggested discussing options with the creditors, but they insisted it was too risky. I trusted my parents and made the mistake of giving them the money under the table, which turned out to be a big mistake. A week after I sent them the money, I realized my parents had blocked me everywhere and disappeared. They sold their house shortly after receiving the money and left without telling anyone. Their neighbors informed me about it. I waited every day for them to return, but they never did. After about 2 weeks, I accepted that my parents had scammed me and I lost all my savings. It was a tough time for me. My wife kept reassuring me that things would be okay and that I could earn the money back with time. However, it took me almost 15 years to save $90,000, and I couldn't imagine working another 15 years to recover what I lost. I tried working with my lawyer, but it was challenging because I didn't know where my parents were. Just when I was about to give up, I received an email from my parents about 2 weeks ago. They apologized, saying they had to lie and scam me because of a gambling debt. They feared I'd be upset if I knew about my dad's gambling problem. So they made up a story to manipulate me into giving them money. They admitted using the money to pay off debts and selling the house to move away, assuming I wouldn't want to be around them if I knew the truth. They expressed deep regret and hoped for my forgiveness. After reading the email, all I felt was intense anger, and I immediately forwarded it to my lawyer to pursue legal action against my parents. However, when I shared this with my wife, she disagreed and didn't think it was right to go after them because they had been through a lot already. I couldn't understand why she was taking their side when they had essentially stolen money from me, and we now had proof of their wrongdoing that we could use to recover the funds. I believed it was worth the effort, considering how hard I had worked to save that money over the years. We argued about it, and she accused me of being heartless because these were my parents who had made a tiny mistake. She tried to explain that addiction, like gambling, could be out of control, and my father might have lost control like an addict does. She suggested I show more compassion and understanding towards them instead of focusing solely on the money. She believed that they resorted to scamming me because they didn't feel safe or comfortable enough to ask for help directly. When I pointed out that they could have just been honest with me from the beginning instead of deceiving me, she blamed me for not creating a safe environment for them to open up. She said my strict demeanor made them afraid to be truthful with me. The conversation with my wife was incredibly frustrating because she kept making me feel like I was to blame and absolved my parents of any responsibility. She was manipulative and made me doubt myself so much that I told my lawyer to pause everything with the legal proceedings. After arguing with my wife, I started questioning my relationship with my parents. She made me feel like I was the villain in this situation, despite being the one who got scammed. Her gaslighting was so effective that I began to wonder if I had been too harsh on people in general. I already had a reputation for being tough at work, So I started thinking maybe I could have treated my parents better and they would have been honest with me. I almost convinced myself that I shouldn't pursue the money and that my focus on savings was making me materialistic. My wife made it seem like I cared more about money than my parents' well-being. We didn't talk for a couple of days, but I couldn't stop thinking about our argument and rereading my parents' email. I was confused and unsure of what to do next. My lawyer kept urging me to proceed with the lawsuit, but I hesitated because I didn't want to lose my wife, especially since I already felt like I had lost my parents. I was about to apologize to my wife when I accidentally saw a text on her phone from my mother, and it changed everything for me. I had taken a day off from work and was feeling down when I noticed my wife had left her phone at home. Curiosity got the best of me, and I decided to snoop through her phone to see if she had been discussing our arguments with her friends. I knew her password, so it wasn't hard to access her messages. To my shock, I discovered that my wife, whom I've been married to for almost 2 decades, was colluding with my parents. She had been in communication with them ever since they sent the apology email. My mother had texted her, asking if she convinced me to drop the lawsuit. If I sued, my parents warned her that their deal would be off. As I scrolled through the messages, I realized this had been going on for a while. My wife had threatened my parents with involving the police to trace them down if they didn't return the money they scanned from me. However, my parents offered her half of the money they received from selling their house and other properties to keep quiet and dissuade me from suing them. It was clear they had enough money to pay off their gambling debts, but chose to scam me instead. My wife agreed to their deal and was trying to convince me to drop the lawsuit. She had already received half of the money for her efforts and was set to receive the rest in a couple of months. As I went through the conversation and realized the extent of the betrayal, my heart broke. Despite feeling devastated, I focused on gathering evidence. I took screenshots of the messages and emailed them to myself. I'd also recorded a video of the conversation to ensure I had solid proof. Knowing my wife would return home soon, I quickly packed a few things and left. I drove to a hotel outside of town, keeping my phone off to avoid her attempts to contact me. I wanted her to discover the truth when she saw the messages I left on her phone. Once settled in the hotel, I turned my phone back on, ignoring my wife's texts, and immediately contacted my lawyer. I shared all the evidence needed to sue both my parents and my wife for the money they had deceived me into giving. I decided to file for divorce as well. I couldn't see a way to rebuild trust after such deception. My wife kept texting apologies, claiming she did it all for us and promising to explain everything later. She insisted she was on my side and planned to use the money for our future. However, I couldn't believe her excuses. It seemed clear she was driven by greed and had manipulated me into forgiving my parents. Even if she had good intentions with the money, her methods were deceitful and hurtful. The betrayal of trust was too deep. Even if she explained herself, I doubted I could ever trust her again. Divorce seemed like the only option left. So my lawyer and I went ahead with filing the legal petitions against my parents and my wife. They were officially served with the legal papers a couple of days ago. It was tricky for my lawyer to find my parents, and we had to hire someone professional to locate them. Eventually, we managed to serve them in person, which was what I wanted. After they were served, I didn't hear anything from my parents, but my wife has been reacting strongly. She's been messaging me nonstop since she got served with both the divorce papers and the lawsuit. I can tell she's desperate and keeps asking me to reconsider the divorce. She says she made a mistake and wants to make things right, but I'm feeling torn. I know I'm hurting her, and it's tough to deal with her constant texts and pleas. We've been together for 17 years, and she kept telling me she was acting for our benefit. I'm just really confused about what to do. I feel like I have no choice but to proceed with the divorce, especially because I believe she manipulated me into forgiving my parents. Update 1. It's been 3 weeks since I filed the legal petitions, and during that time, I decided to block my wife because I felt like I had nothing more to say to her. She kept trying to reach out and convince me to come back for about a week before I finally blocked her. Part of my decision came from the advice I received here. Many people pointed out that my wife's actions were a huge red flag. I realized that my love for her had clouded my judgment. Deep down, I wanted to believe she would never betray me like this, but I couldn't ignore the truth anymore. She manipulated and betrayed me, and I doubt she would have ever come clean on her own. After such a deep betrayal, I don't think I could ever trust her again, no matter how much I loved her. Blocking her was actually a relief, and it helped clear my head. The legal proceedings against my parents and my wife are moving forward, and things are looking positive for me. I'm confident I'll get my money back. My parents are facing the consequences of their lies, and my lawyer and I are determined to hold them accountable. They already seem unhappy about the situation. On the day of our first settlement negotiation, my goal was to ensure my parents looked and felt as unhappy as I did when they scammed me. My wife also tried to talk to me that day, which was difficult, but I managed to avoid her and return to the hotel without interacting. Now, my plan is to continue avoiding her until all of this is over. It's going to be challenging, but I'm determined not to speak to my wife under any circumstances. I'm afraid that talking to her might weaken my resolve, and I can't risk going back to her. I know she can manipulate me, as she almost did before. I have very little self-control when it comes to her, so it's safest for me to avoid any contact. Dealing with her legally is already tough enough for me. I can't handle more than that. So my focus right now is on avoiding her as much as possible until everything is resolved. Update 2. Today, my wife unexpectedly showed up at the hotel where I've been staying. I was surprised when the hotel front desk called me to let me know she was there. I hadn't told anyone besides my lawyer and a couple of trusted friends where I was, and I knew they wouldn't have shared my location with her. When I spoke to her, she explained that she had been searching all the hotels in town for the past few days to find me. Now that she had located me, she insisted on having a conversation. Feeling unsure of what to do, I invited her up to my room because I didn't want to argue in the lobby. Once in the room, we sat in awkward silence until she finally spoke up. She asked me to stop the divorce proceedings, which caught me off guard. I couldn't believe she was bringing this up again. I firmly told her it was already bad enough that she showed up uninvited and that she shouldn't make things worse by pressuring me. She then tried to convince me by saying she would testify against my parents to make things easier for me if I stayed with her. I explained to her that this wasn't how things worked. She couldn't just turn against my parents and expect me to take her back. Our relationship was beyond repair, and I had already made it clear that I wanted to leave. She couldn't accept that our marriage was ending. I tried explaining that I was fighting to end it, not fix it. She started crying and asked why I was punishing her when she had learned her lesson. Her reaction seemed absurd to me. I chuckled because she made it sound like I was a strict teacher, not her betrayed husband. I clarified that I wasn't punishing her. I was protecting myself. Staying away from her was what I needed for my own well-being. Despite my explanation, she kept crying and insisted she was acting for our benefit. She didn't want to throw away over a decade of her life for a mistake. I felt miserable too, but I couldn't trust her anymore. I needed her to understand this. I gently explained that I couldn't be with her, even though I loved her, because she had hurt me and broken my trust. Once trust is broken, it can't easily be repaired. Staying together would only lead to doubt and misery for both of us. Continuing the marriage wouldn't make sense because I would always doubt her sincerity. It was in both our best interests to go through with the divorce, as staying together would only make us both unhappy. Instead of trying to accept it, I thought I was making progress with her until she stood up and told me I was wrong. She said she loved me and wasn't ready to give up on our marriage because of a misunderstanding. Then she walked out. Now, I've been sitting here for the past hour wondering what to do. It's really frustrating because this could be a straightforward divorce, but she's making it much more difficult. I told my lawyer about it, but there's not much we can do if she doesn't want to get divorced. It's really frustrating, but I feel stuck and can't do anything about it. Just wanted to give you all an update on the legal process. It's still ongoing, but I'm definitely winning. My parents are just trying to buy themselves more time, and my wife is still fighting against the divorce, even though it's been almost 2 months since the proceedings began. I feel sorry for her at this point because she's clearly in denial about the situation. Her family isn't speaking to her either, presumably because they found out the truth. It must be tough for her. But I want to clarify that it's not my fault. Update 4. It's been almost 4 months since my original post, and today my parents and wife were finally ordered to return all the money to me. Despite knowing they were likely to lose, they and their lawyers fought hard. It was incredibly satisfying to see their reactions when they realized they had lost. Regarding my wife, we're definitely getting divorced now, regardless of whether she agrees. The legal process is just a formality. Mentally, I've already moved on. I've left the hotel and moved into my own apartment. We're still sorting out who gets the house in the divorce. I hope it's me because I feel entitled to it. We still need to divide all our property. I think it's best to sell everything we own together and split the proceeds. I'm being generous, considering she sided with my parents to try to cheat me out of my share of the money. She stopped trying to contact me, which is a relief. By now, she should understand that reconciliation isn't possible. I'm now focusing on my business plan, which I hope to start working on actively very soon. I'm done with the divorce, and things are finally looking up for me. I have a lot of work ahead to rebuild my life and learn how to live on my own. It's going to be a long journey, but I believe it will be worth it in the end. Hi everyone, I'm Nancy, and I'm 45 years old. Let me tell you a personal story. I met my ex-husband, Arthur, at work, and we hit it off right away. Our friendship turned into a romantic relationship, and after dating for 3 years, we felt like we were meant to be together, so we got married. I've never been too keen on having kids, but Arthur always wanted a family. We talked about it a lot while we were dating, and I hoped he'd eventually be okay without children. The first few years of our marriage were great, and we didn't really talk about having kids much. But then, after our second anniversary, Arthur brought it up again. I was hesitant at first, but after discussing it a lot, I agreed to have one child. I made it clear that if we wanted more kids later on, we could consider surrogacy or adoption. Arthur was really happy with this compromise, and we started trying for a baby. It wasn't easy, though. I had a tough pregnancy with constant nausea, weird cravings, and sensitivity to smells that made me feel even sicker. Despite all this, Arthur was incredibly supportive. About 7 months into the pregnancy, during a checkup, the doctor noticed something concerning on the ultrasound. She said our baby was healthy, but there might be some issues with his legs. The news hit us hard, and we drove home in silence, both lost in our worries about the future. When we got home, Arthur hugged me, and we comforted each other, realizing that our vision of a perfect family might not come true. I blamed myself, feeling guilty about our son's condition. Arthur, however, firmly reassured me that I shouldn't blame myself for our situation. He reminded me that we were just facing a tough break of luck. Even though I hadn't initially wanted children, being pregnant changed my perspective. I started dreaming big for our son, imagining playing sports together, witnessing his first steps, and enjoying his playful antics. I longed for all the typical joys of parenthood. But now, faced with the reality of our son's potential disabilities, I felt like those dreams were being taken away from us. It seemed incredibly unfair, not just for us, but especially for our child. Arthur admitted that he never imagined parenting a child with disabilities, but he also pointed out that life is unpredictable, and we have to accept our circumstances. I was scared that having another child in the future might not be an option anymore. I believed we should focus solely on taking care of our son's needs, fearing that introducing another child later could lead to resentment. Arthur suggested we put off discussing expanding our family until after our son was born, giving us time to process everything. Still reeling from the news about our son's condition, Arthur's casual mention of having another child in the future unsettled me deeply. It felt insensitive given the challenges we were about to face. Despite my changed attitude towards him, Arthur didn't seem to notice or respond to it. 4 months later, our son Mason was born. Unfortunately, due to incomplete nerve development, Mason was paralyzed from the waist down. Despite this, my overwhelming emotions were relief and joy that he was otherwise healthy, with no additional complications. Adjusting to life with Mason was challenging for both Arthur and me. Our days were filled with sleepless nights, work, and constant care for Mason, including frequent doctor's appointments to monitor his health and development. The doctor suggested we consider treatments like medication or surgery in the future to potentially give Mason some sensation in his legs when he got older. We kept an open mind about these options. Mason grew into a remarkably bright child. By the age of 3, he was talking, and by 5, he was exploring beginner-level books. His intellectual achievements filled me with pride, especially considering the extra challenges he faced. However, Mason also faced discrimination. Despite his abilities, his school suggested placing him in special education. We strongly opposed this, as Mason was fully capable of participating in regular classes without any issues. When Mason turned 6, we discussed exploring medical options for his legs to see if he was interested in potentially increasing his mobility in the future. However, Mason expressed a deep love for his wheelchair and had no desire to change his situation. His contentment with himself was heartwarming, though I understood that his feelings might change over time. I was ready to support whatever decision Mason made in the future, whenever he was ready to reconsider. However, Arthur showed impatience with waiting for Mason to be ready to explore medical options. He acknowledged being pleased with Mason's acceptance of his condition, but expressed a desire to pursue all possible avenues to improve Mason's mobility sooner rather than later. This difference in perspective revealed the complex emotions and decisions we faced as parents navigating our son's journey with his disability. Arthur argued that we shouldn't simply accept Mason's condition when there were potential ways to improve his situation. He believed in exploring every possibility to enhance Mason's life. In contrast, I countered by emphasizing that Mason, despite his challenges, was already living his best life. He might not walk, but his intellect and talents shone brightly. My stance was about respecting Mason's autonomy and letting him guide us on if or when he wanted to pursue any treatments. Arthur raised the concern that waiting might mean missing a critical window for treatment during Mason's developmental years. I understood his point but felt strongly that such a significant decision shouldn't be rushed or taken lightly, especially given Mason's age. The fear that Mason might grow to regret a missed opportunity was valid, yet burdening him with such a decision now seemed equally troubling. Moreover, I worried about the impact on Mason's self-esteem. The message we might inadvertently send that he wasn't perfect in our eyes could harm his self-perception. Arthur countered, suggesting that successful treatment could lead to gratitude later, especially considering the societal challenges faced by those with disabilities. He reminded me of our initial reactions, acknowledging the harsh reality we navigated, and argued for proactive steps towards potential improvement. Admittedly, Arthur's arguments made sense, and amidst many discussions, we agreed to proceed with treatments. The following year and a half was a whirlwind of hospital visits marked by exhaustion and heartache. Each time Mason experienced pain, Arthur remained the steadier of us, consistently assuring me of our decision's merits. However, as time passed without significant improvement, my resolve waned. Finally witnessing Mason's resilience and happiness despite the treatments, I advocated for a halt. I argued that Mason's contentment with his identity outweighed our pursuit of a solution that seemed increasingly elusive. Despite Arthur's attempts to persuade me otherwise, my conviction was firm. Mason's well-being, as he perceived it, was paramount, and our interventions, well-intentioned though they were, needed to be reassessed in light of his happiness and quality of life. Witnessing Mason endure so much pain became unbearable for me. As we navigated through the myriad of treatments and surgeries, I felt increasingly isolated in the caregiving role. It seemed Arthur had withdrawn his involvement, diminishing over time, leaving me to shoulder the majority of Mason's care. When we decided to cease Mason's treatment, Arthur expressed his disappointment quietly, but the matter seemed to settle without much further discussion. Months after stopping the treatment, Arthur broached an unexpected topic: the possibility of having another child. He pointed out that Mason was nearing 7 years old and suggested we consider either adoption or surrogacy. I was taken aback. This was a path I had firmly closed, a decision made during a time of immense stress and focus on Mason's well-being. Arthur's suggestion felt out of touch with the reality of our situation, especially considering his recent detachment from our family life. Arthur's approach, seemingly casual about such a significant life decision, frustrated me. I couldn't help but respond with sharpness, driven by the stress of the past months and his lack of presence. His reaction was one of defensiveness, accusing me of expecting him to revolve his life solely around our son's disability. His words were hurtful, suggesting a disconnect in understanding the depth of love and commitment I held for Mason. The conversation escalated quickly, with Arthur insinuating that I harbored negative feelings toward our situation, a claim I found deeply offensive. My stance was clear: introducing another child into our family, given our current dynamics and the focused attention Mason needed, would not be responsible or fair to anyone involved. Arthur seemed resigned, attributing any future consequences to my decision. The statement left me bewildered and upset. At that moment, any desire to understand Arthur's perspective vanished. His consideration of expanding our family in light of our recent challenges and his diminished involvement struck me as incredibly misguided. The discussion ended in a stalemate, with a heavy air of unresolved tension and blame marking a significant turning point in our relationship and family dynamics. Initially, the idea of expanding our family was something I pondered deeply, especially in the early years after Mason was born. My research led me to countless stories where siblings felt neglected or overlooked due to the extra attention required by a brother or sister with disabilities. This wasn't necessarily anyone's fault. It's a natural outcome when one child needs more care. I couldn't bear the thought of bringing another child into our home only to possibly feel that they were second to Mason's needs. After expressing my concerns, Arthur withdrew from me entirely. I tried to give him space, hoping he just needed time to process our disagreement, but his silence stretched into weeks. Mason noticed the tension and questioned if we were fighting, to which I could only offer a gentle lie about a minor disagreement. Time passed. A month, then more, and still I held onto the hope of reconciliation, continuously seeking any opportunity for dialogue. 4 months into this growing divide, I stumbled upon a devastating revelation. Arthur had been communicating with someone named Gloria, exchanging messages filled with affection and plans to meet again. Their conversations hinted at a future together away from me. This betrayal cut deep, far beyond the disagreement over expanding our family. It was a breach of trust I had never anticipated from him. The thought of confronting Arthur crossed my mind repeatedly, yet I chose a different path. It was clear I needed to prepare for what might come next, particularly for Mason's and my future. In the following 9 months, I found work as a scriptwriter. Though it wasn't a lucrative job, it provided us with some financial stability. This period wasn't just about earning. It was about laying the groundwork for a life that might soon change drastically, ensuring that regardless of Arthur's decisions, Mason and I would have a solid plan in place. I had been saving money in secret, preparing for a future that suddenly seemed inevitable. This fund was my safety net, a secret I kept from Arthur. Then the day I had dreaded arrived. Arthur walked into our home, not alone, but with a woman by his side. When I asked who she was, he coldly introduced her as Gloria, declaring she was there to replace me. His words were like a punch to the gut. He spoke of his misery not just recently, but over the past decade, describing our life together as a nightmare. The announcement that he intended to marry Gloria and start a new family the right way this time was shocking enough. But his disregard for our son Mason and his responsibilities towards him was unbearable. Arthur callously revealed that Gloria was pregnant, implying their child would be normal in direct and cruel comparison to Mason. His lack of respect for our son, referring to him as anything less than, ignited a fury in me. Arthur's blame for our family's challenges on my reluctance to have more children and his insult towards Mason as a monster were beyond forgiveness. In a moment that seemed to strip away any remaining respect or love I had for Arthur, he demanded that we leave our home within a week, tossing divorce papers at me. The venom in his and Gloria's smirks as they looked at us was chilling, but it wasn't his betrayal that hurt the most. It was the disdain he showed towards Mason. Finding Mason in tears after having overheard everything broke my heart. I comforted him, assuring him that he was nothing like what Arthur had described. We retreated to our room, where I began to pack, determined to leave this toxic environment as soon as possible. After Arthur and Gloria left, it was just Mason and me. This moment marked a new beginning, one filled with challenges but also a resolve to protect my son and build a life where he felt valued and loved, far away from the cruelty that had just unfolded. After the confrontation with Arthur, I found solace in action, swiftly organizing Mason's belongings and securing the divorce papers. In those moments of turmoil, I reached out to my mother, who promptly arrived with my father to assist us. They enveloped us in support, helping us pack and welcoming us into their home. Amidst the chaos, a strange sense of relief washed over me, lifting the heavy burden of dread and uncertainty that had plagued me for months. With my parents' support, I hired a competent lawyer who helped me navigate the legal battle for alimony and child support. The verdict favored us, awarding substantial support for both Mason and me. Much to Arthur's displeasure, his reaction mattered little to me by then. My focus was on rebuilding our lives. The following years brought a mix of healing and new challenges. While I immersed myself in work and caregiving, Mason discovered a powerful outlet for his emotions and ambitions in Paralympic sports. By the age of 15, he had developed a keen interest in wheelchair racing, practicing with determination. Mason's aspirations transcended the financial implications of professional training and equipment. My immediate response was encouragement, promising to provide whatever he needed to pursue his dreams. This commitment sparked the beginning of Mason's journey toward becoming a national athlete. His dedication was palpable, and witnessing his commitment filled me with indescribable pride. As the national tournament approached, Mason's qualifications were impressive, easily securing his place in the competition. Our family celebrated his achievements and the upcoming event with a gathering that was as much a send-off party as it was an expression of our collective hopes and dreams for him. On the day of the tournament, the stadium came alive with the vibrant energy of competitors and supporters. Chants filled the air, a testament to the community and spirit of the event. It was a day marked not just by athletic prowess, but by the strength of the human spirit and the enduring support of family, illustrating the transformative power of love, resilience, and ambition. During the award ceremony, Mason was invited to speak. He expressed his gratitude towards me and his grandparents for our unwavering support. But then he took a moment to mention his father, Arthur Lambert, crediting his absence and neglect as an unlikely source of his drive in athletics. This bold acknowledgement in front of the crowd and later echoed in newspaper headlines stirred a reaction from Arthur, who reached out after years of silence. Arthur's call, prompted by the news of Mason's success, was filled with claims of pride and a desire to reconnect. Yet his words fell on deaf ears. The time for reconciliation had passed, and Mason's accomplishments were his own, achieved despite Arthur's earlier abandonment. Arthur's plea to speak to Mason was met with a firm refusal, a decision supported by Mason himself, who had no interest in reopening old wounds. Mason's journey didn't stop at that one race. He continued to excel, participating in numerous competitions and consistently securing victories. His story, marked by resilience and a refusal to be defined by his disability, resonated widely, offering inspiration and serving as a testament to his strength of character. This experience, shared in the public eye, carried a powerful message, Kindness and support can propel individuals to achieve greatness regardless of the challenges they face. Mason's success story is not just about athletic prowess, it's a narrative of overcoming adversity, the importance of family support, and the strength found in forgiveness and self-belief.